Does Georgia have a legitimate Heisman contender on its roster? Let's talk about it. So, in this century, right, the 2000s, right, once they hit 2000, Georgia's had one Heisman finalist. That was Stetson Bennett in 2022. There's been some buzz about this award recently. I've been looking at Gunnar Stockton's odds and kind of seeing the variation. DraftKings has him with plus 2,500 odds. Those are the shortest odds that I've seen him at. FanDuel's got him at plus 3,500. I've seen him at plus 3,300. Somewhere between 10 and 20 is where people think Gunnar Stockton. And if in the betting world, he's Georgia's best bet to win the Heisman Trophy. It doesn't have to be him. Now, a quarterback wins this award almost every single year. Didn't last year, and the runner-up was also not a quarterback a year ago when you think about Travis Hunter and Ashton Denty. But does Georgia have a legitimate Heisman contender? Someone that, to me, is not a legitimate Heisman contender for Georgia, that I think is a very, very good football player, got mentioned in this conversation recently. I will bring that up here in a second. I think that there is probably more star power on Georgia's offense than there was a year ago. Now, my knee-jerk reaction, my honest answer to this usually is I don't think Georgia has a Heisman contender. I don't think that Georgia I don't really see Georgia having a Heisman winner or contender. And partially is because of the unselfishness. It's the play style of this offense, and it's just kind of the way things go with Kirby and these Dogs. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post talking about the Heisman Trophy. And let's go ahead and talk about this part first. C.J. Allen was named a Heisman Trophy candidate by someone at CBS. And I'll read the blurb that they had to say. Realistically, Georgia probably doesn't have a serious Heisman contender. But Allen will have a serious case for being one of the best defenders in college football. The junior totaled 117 tackles, with 6 for loss in his first 2 seasons in Athens, and should take on an even bigger role after Jalen Walker's departure. If Georgia's defense gets back to all-world caliber, Allen will be a huge part. So as always, I like to debunk some of these quotes. I like to debunk things. Yes, C.J. Allen is going to be a huge part of Georgia's offense. Yes, I think he's a Butkus Award candidate, and I think he's one of the best linebackers in college football. I don't think Jalen Walker's departure has much to do with it, as he was a hybrid and didn't really take C.J. Allen's spot much, right? And they were part of a rotation. Look, the best linebacker season we've seen at Georgia in a long time was Roquan Smith, and he had over 100 and something, 130-ish tackles, I want to say. Now, C.J. Allen is Georgia's returning leading tackler. He had 76 last year. But Georgia's going to rotate these linebackers. All right? Chris Cole is going to get into the football game. Justin Williams is going to get in the football game. When C.J. Allen's a little tired, Raylan Wilson is going to be out there. All right, they brought in a couple of freshmen. Zayden Walker, A.J. Crew. They got Terrell Foster, who's been around for a long time and played with the first team a good bit at G-Day. A middle linebacker as a Heisman finalist is the last time we saw that Manti Te'o, and Johnny Manziel was kind of the hands-down Heisman that year, right? It's just really tough for that to happen. It's just, it would take a lot of convincing for me to come around and say C.J. Allen, or really anybody on this Georgia defense, to be a Heisman finalist, partially because they rotate, and partially because, as good as I think that a lot of players on Georgia's defense are, I don't know if any of them are that good. I don't know if KJ Bolden is the one I start to lean towards as, is he Georgia's best player? Is he Georgia's best defensive player? Is he, or is he going to take a step forward and become that? He's kind of the guy I point to for that. But C.J. Allen, fantastic player. I have a hard time seeing him be a Heisman finalist. All right, moving on. Let's move on to Nate Frazier. Georgia's presumed RB1. Georgia's presumed lead back. The guy who was Georgia's leading rusher in 2024 with close to 700 yards, about 8 rushing touchdowns. He was a true freshman last season who ended up taking extra carries because Roderick Robinson and Branson Robinson got hurt, guys that were projected to be ahead of him, because Trevor Etienne got suspended for a game and got hurt. And they didn't have a ball carrier a lot of the time. Well, Nate Frazier ended up being that guy. And he's got Heisman odds. You can bet on him. There's 4 guys on FanDuel's list that you could bet on for the Heisman. Nate Frazier's at plus 18,000 odds. Right there with Diego Pavia, right? Quarterback for Vanderbilt. Caleb Downs, the safety for Ohio State. He's in that range in these people's minds. He's a guy that you can bet on for this thing. Now, I think Frazier is an electric talent. I think he's Georgia's best running back. I don't know about Heisman. Georgia brought in Josh McCray for a reason, the running back from Illinois. I think that they brought him in to be, one, to change the pace back, 2, extra depth, especially when you need power backs. And Roderick Robinson has a hard time staying on the field, and Branson Robinson hit the transfer portal, and the rest of the group is largely unproven, and Cash Jones is not a power back. That's why they brought in big Josh McCray from Illinois. I think they're going to rotate. I think that 1,000 yards is attainable for Nate Frazier, but think about the Heisman running backs. Ashton Genty, what did he have, like over 2,000 yards, over 20 rushing touchdowns? Nate Frazier's not going to get those numbers. And Ashton Genty came in second. Derrick Henry, was he the last running back to win the Heisman? 2,000 yards, 20-ish touchdowns, right? That's what it takes to win the Heisman as a running back. Or you have to have a very unique season like Travis Hunter did. You got to be a good quarterback. You got to have an unreal season like Devontae Smith did at wide receiver for Alabama a few years back. So I find it hard to believe that a running back room that Kirby Smart likes to have on a rotation basis, I have a hard time seeing him be in the mix for that trophy, especially when, look, we just saw the best running back season in a minute in Ashton Genty, and it wasn't enough to win the Heisman. Just what it is. Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas are on this list. Noah Thomas plus 50,000 odds. Around there with Squirrel White, wide receiver for Tennessee, Dylan Stewart, edge rusher for South Carolina, TJ Parker, defensive lineman for Clemson, right? Zachariah Branch is higher on those odds. I think that Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas are going to be very welcome additions to the Georgia Bulldog offense. I think that they are very important additions and help a room that really struggled in 2024 and led the country with 30-plus drops as the receiving core. Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas were brought to Athens to make that situation better. And I think that Zachariah Branch is an electric talent. Like I said with Nate Frazier, I think that he's going to be an X factor for the Georgia offense. I think that Noah Thomas provides a lot of what Georgia was missing a year ago with a big-bodied wide receiver that can go up and go get it. A guy that's silky smooth for a 6'5", 6'6" frame. They're not going to have Devontae Smith level seasons, right? They're not going to have Travis Hunter level seasons. It's just not the case. Now, what's the most realistic thing? It's Gunnar Stockton. It's Gunnar Stockton. Whether you are a big Gunnar believer or not, Gunnar Stockton is Georgia's best chance at winning the Heisman Trophy. Why? Saw Stetson Bennett become a finalist, come in 4th place in 2022, heading into that ceremony, heading into the vote, right? He had played 13 games. Georgia's coming off an SEC championship. He had 20 touchdowns as opposed to 6 interceptions through the air. He had about 3,400 yards through the air, and he had about 7 touchdowns. If Gunnar can lead Georgia to a lot of wins, if Gunnar can lead Georgia to an SEC championship and put up over 3,000 yards, put up probably 25-plus passing touchdowns, maybe more, a handful of rushing touchdowns, Gunnar Stockton's going to find himself in New York. It's easier said than done, but it's certainly easier for a quarterback to do it than it is for these skill position players, than it is for a defensive player to be a Heisman Trophy candidate when you just are looking at it from a historical standpoint. It's the quarterbacks that have the best chance. Gunnar, he's going to run, and the legs matter, and that's why I think you can't really write him off for this. Now, look, at the end of the day, Kirby Smart, Georgia, I don't think Gunnar himself really care about the Heisman Trophy. Now, I'm sure Gunnar Stockton dreamed of winning the Heisman Trophy, but now he's in this Georgia system. He's in the Kirby Smart system. What do they care about? They care about wins. They care about touchdowns. They care about leaving Sanford Stadium, leaving whatever SEC stadium it is with a W. that's always going to matter more than throwing for 400 or 500 yards. Georgia threw for 400 yards plus out of necessity a couple times a year ago. I don't think there's going to be many games where Gunnar Stockton throws more than 30 times. This is a team that wants to run the football more. This is a team that's going to use Gunnar Stockton's legs, but he has a few 300-plus yard games, maybe has a few 4-touchdown passing games, has a couple games where he throws for 2 touchdowns, runs for 2 touchdowns, is really efficient, doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. Gunnar Stockton's going to find himself in New York, and that is Georgia's most realistic chance at getting a Heisman finalist or winner in 2025. Talked about a few guys. Gunnar's the most realistic shot the Dogs have.